Hi guys, and welcome to my kitchen. This is Nadine from French Girl Gaming, and this is cooking for Geeks and Noobs. Today we are going to make some banana bread, and this one is dedicated to one of my Twitch viewers. You know who you are. I hope you'll try it and I hope you'll like it. Now, to get started, we have to put the oven on. So I've put the oven on to heat up to make sure it's at the right temperature by the time we're ready. So I'm using a fan force oven, so I'm using temperature I'm setting is 160 Celsius, which is 350 Fahrenheit. If it was not fan force, it will be 180 Celsius, which is 356 Fahrenheit. Now, the other thing also we're going to do is we need to grease the actual dish we're going to use. Now, in terms of measurements, I'm going to measure so you can tell exactly what size I'm using, and I recommend something that's fairly deep. Size wise, so I'm looking at 27 centimeter long by about 11 and a half, and the depth is about 11. So in inches, that's going to be 10 and a half inch by 4 and a quarter, and I think that's about going to be about the same, about 4 deep. So that's the size of the dish. The other thing I've done is I have melted 100 grams of butter, and I'm simply going to grease the inside of that dish with the butter, and the leftover of that butter of course is going to go into our cake mix. So we're only using a little bit of the 100 grams to grease the actual dish here, and I'm going quite generous, making sure that every corners is well greased, because that's going to stop everything from sticking, and it's going to make the getting it out of the mold a bit easier. Alright, so once all of that is well greased, we're good to go, and we're going to use that butter of course in our cake mix. Now I'm going to put that aside. In terms of the dry mix, I have here already 125 grams of self-raising flour, 125 grams of plain flour, and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. If you don't have self-raising flour, you can do your own. It's fairly easy. You actually mix the proportion, I'm looking at my notes, is 1 cup of plain flour for 1.5 to 2 teaspoons of baking powder and half teaspoon of salt. So that's kind of proportion. You can look online, you'll find this quite a few places. But that's basically what I have here. The other thing I've added here also an extra pinch of salt too, because effectively I'm using one ready-made self-raising flour and one self-made self-raising flour proportion of. So that's that. The other thing we're going to add also is some cinnamon powder and some nutmeg. It's going to be 1 teaspoon of each. And then of course we're going to have the bananas. I've got 4 very ripe bananas, and also I'm putting walnuts. Now if you're allergic to walnuts, you obviously don't put walnuts. You can use raisins or sultanas, but if you like walnuts, I really recommend it. It's really nice. And we're going to toast those walnuts too, so I'll do that in the frying pan in a second. The next thing I'm going to do here is I've got 4 eggs here that we're going to beat up with 150 grams of sugar. So I've already kind of started a little bit, and the idea is to beat up the sugar and the 3 eggs first to get the sugar dissolved, and then to just drip slowly the melted butter. Don't make sure the butter is not too hot, because you don't want to cook the eggs as you pour hot butter in. So that's why I let it cool down a little bit. So then you can end up with a nice golden mix like this, with the sugar is dissolved, the butter is dissolved, and we can put that aside for a few minutes while we get onto the bananas. So banana wise, they're pretty ripe. I've got already 2 down here. I've got 2 more here. So ripe bananas, And if you're not ready to make your banana cake when your bananas are ready, you can put your bananas in the freezer and defrost them the day you want to make your cake. I've done that before, that works pretty good. Even if the skin is really black, it really doesn't matter. What matters is what's inside. As long as the inside is fine, then it's all good. That. And with ripe bananas, they're really easy to mash. You just use a fork. Make a nice. Okay, so that's kind of the consistency you're looking at. It's not really rocket science. It's just mashed bananas. Now, what we're going to do is toast those walnuts so they're a little bit colored, but not too much. Now, in terms of this, I'm going to put in there 1 teaspoon of nutmeg. Cinnamon. From the pack. Yay! It smells nice. Wasting all that nice cinnamon. The other thing I need to make sure is I put that 1 teaspoon of baking powder in here. Okay, just want to keep an eye on the walnuts so they don't go charcoal, but apart from that, it doesn't take too long, so I'm going to keep an eye on it. Now what I'm going to do is add that banana mix into my egg mix. And I kind of fold it in rather than whisking in it, because at this stage we're already into combining ingredients rather than whisking things together. Okay. And the other thing I use one of those little devices for sifting flour. If you haven't got one of those, you can use just a normal sieve, okay? But these are really good because you can go left hand, right hand. You don't have to have both hands holding things. With the sieve, I usually use a sieve and then use a spoon to tap the sieve to make the flour go down. This is actually nice because it just kind of sprinkles an even cloud of flour down. It gives you time to mix it properly without having lumps. So that's something I want to avoid. With my walnuts, I'm not putting any oil at all in the pan. It's just really dry toasting them, basically. So I'm going to get my dry mix here. What I do, I put a little plate underneath, otherwise the whole thing starts to go through. I'm just going to put all my flour So this is 1 cup of plain flour, 1 cup of self-raising, and the extra self-raising baking powder, and a bit of salt. This underneath so it doesn't move, and that's what I do. Just gently sprinkle flour and fold it in. This is probably the hardest effort of making this cake. What takes longest, and that's the most complicated part. That and not burning walnuts. I don't like using a whisk for this part because I found it just whisk it too much, effectively puts more air bubble than it's necessary. I need to be in control of the things here. I like to make it that way. It's not difficult really. Just going to go and check on the walnuts. I think the toasting process of the walnut is well worth it. It brings a lot of the walnut flavors out, and it gives the nice little extra crunchiness into your banana bread, which is really good. So this is starting to thicken nicely. I've got still a little bit of flour left to go. So my walnuts are basically the color one, which is like a nice little tan but not burnt. I'm just going to put them in here. Well, let them cool down. I still need to add some more flour to the mix. I think we're done. Woohoo. Okay. There you go. So that's the consistency that we are looking at. It is fairly liquid, but not too liquid. It's actually quite thick. And it smells very nice of banana and cinnamon and a bit of nutmeg. So I'm going to add now my walnuts. What I'm going to do though, I'm going to keep some of the bigger pieces that I'm going to save for the top. So if I can find them, maybe some of the bigger chunks act as decorations. There we go, nice big one here. I'm just gonna break them into not too small, but this big is fine. Don't want to go totally. Don't want to go nuts about it, really. Okay, that's a nice big one. We kept to the top. Nice mix. So this is what we're looking at, consistency-wise. Good to put that into our buttered, greased up tin. I'm just going to pour that in. Now this is going to go in the oven for 1 hour, but what I tend to do at about 30-minute mark, I'll come and have a little look just to make sure everything is going okay and that the top is not cooking faster or whatever. There's not one side going faster than the other. My oven is not the most reliable of all ovens. Okay. Like, and I'm just going to put those walnut pieces I saved, put them on the top. There you go. So that's what it looks like. I can't really show you because I don't want to tilt it. But trust me. So this is going to go now in the oven for an hour. At 30-minute mark, so come and have a look. But you want to cook it for 1 hour. You want to make sure, of course, it's cooked inside, not just outside. So that's why you don't want too much heat. So temperature wise, like I said, fan forced oven, 160 Celsius, which is 350 Fahrenheit. And then that's it. And once it's ready, we'll put it out, cool it down and slice it. Welcome back. 1 hour later. Still very hot, just put it out of the oven. So this is what it looks like, and that's basically what it should look like. So I'm gonna give it about 5-10 minutes to cool down a little bit so I can hold it, and then I'm gonna transfer it to this. But before I do that, I'm gonna make sure that it's cooked inside. I'm using a skewer. You can use a spaghetti. I'm just gonna stab it in the middle, maybe at an angle like this. Put a little crack there so we don't make too much mess. And perfect. It should come out nice and dry, no gooey bits. If it's still gooey, that means it's not cooked in the middle. You're gonna have to put it back in the oven. If the top is already cooked, then you want to make sure that you don't want to burn it. So if you have to put it back in the oven, put some foil on the top and put it back in the oven that way. But technically speaking, in theory, it should come out cooked as it is now. We're just gonna let it cool down. And then in 10 minutes time, I'll transfer it here so you can see what it looks like on the outside. Be back. This has cooled down a little bit, so now we're gonna take it out of the dish. Just give it a shake. And here we go. Nice little banana bread. Yum. Now, the hardest bit, to stay away from it until it's cool enough to eat. Now what we're going to do is just cut a little slice. It's still warm, but we're going to check what it looks like inside. I'm using a bread knife because it's a little bit easier with that. But here we go. So this is what it looks like. We got bits of walnuts scattered around the place. Looking pretty yum, and it smells really good. I hope you give it a shot and that you like it as much as we do. Thank you guys. See you next time. Bye bye.